Hello and welcome to another session of AZMAT System tutorials. In this session, we'll continue with the SSOP model commands from the Z menu. So we are running XL2010, which is XL14, and Windows XP operating system. Let's just have a quick look at it. File, Help, Microsoft Excel 2010, version 14. If I click on the additional version and copyright information, in here again you can see Excel 2010-14, but if you click the system info, it gives in a separate window the operating system and other information. OS name, this operating system name, Microsoft Windows XP Professional. So go back here to main. So let's start by opening the AZMAT System and SSOP model. File, open, my computer. I'm running it from the G drive, which is one of the USB sticks. I'll go under the Excel 2010 folder or directory, and that's where my AZMAT System program files are. As you can see, all these are the AZMAT System program files. AZMAT.xls is the main program file. Open as read-only, always open as read-only. Simple password for the file opening. Now we'll come to AZMAT System password. You'll be able to change this on your own machine to whatever you'd like. And the user ID, two-character user ID. Should get the message box now. There, two-letter user ID. I used AA and 4-digit password, your own. Again, both of these you can choose whatever you like them to be, except not beginning with Z, your ID. Because the files beginning with Z have a special meaning in AZMAT System. So I'd advise you not to use those. Any ID beginning with Z. Right, Excel version 1.0 XL14 is now ready. Please select the required command either from AZMAT menus, JKX, or that lot 9 menus, or from any Excel menu. And as you can see, click add-ins. Add-ins will be added here, and then we'll be able to access the AZMAT System commands from here. There. Just going to restore the window to its original size, and at the same time, since the Excel vertical scroll bars get the horizontal scroll bars, I'll just quickly do the window arrange. There, so I've got access to the horizontal scroll bars as well now. First thing I'll do here is save this AZMAT data file so I can get the date 2nd of September, 12:14 a.m. London time. So I've got some idea of when I started and so on. Right, before we get into the actual open the SSOP model, as you probably know by now, if you've seen other tutorials, you need to update the ZRUSD. Well, we don't have to, but if that's the curve I'm going to use, any race file or curve as is known, the ones you're going to use, they have to be updated at least once a day before they can be used. This is because AZMAT System requires certain calculations to be carried out on them before the users can use them in any valuation commands. So simplest thing is, if I don't want to make any structural changes to the file or change the prices, it's just simply do the curve file cap, set our USG there. Okay, I'm not going to go through all those again because I've been through this several times and you must be getting bored by now. So there is no point. Given the user a file here, specifically, as you can see, it's ZZZ_034. This file, I've actually prepared a standard message asking the user to wait. Right, as my system is completed, required calculation of that file, and the file is being saved. I'll also do the same for the I have to click add-ins to get to the AZMAT menu. I'll also do it for the GBP. I can just change the 3 letters. GBP, they don't have to be uppercase, lowercase, any case, AZMAT System will automatically convert them to uppercase. So it says it's currently carrying out a command. Please do not interrupt this command. Please wait until command is completed, message is displayed, or ready is displayed in the lower left corner of the screen here. Right, ready is displayed, and the command is completed, message is also here. Fine. So if you look at it here, we still got only one file open and not hidden. Unhide window, just to show you, there are other files which are open. Main program file and many other files which AZMAT System may or may not require. So it has them ready just in case you, the user, decide to use them. Use certain commands which need those files. Okay, we are now ready to use any of those, the 2 curves, US dollar and the GBP, in any valuation commands. So let's go and open the AZMAT model. So add-ins from the J menu, AZMAT model. If I click that, should open that. There it is, my AZMAT model commands. Error, maturity date must be greater than or equal to settlement date. Maturity date there, settlement date there. So the maturity date must be greater than or equal to the settlement date. It's only because on the main model I have got a very old date, just so that if I change that date to some future date, which I probably will do that before this system is shipped out to you, these files, AZMAT System files, so you will not get that in the beginning every time you open it. You'll get a different message, not this particular one. So I'll make sure this particular file. So now currently it is today, 2nd of September 2017. So I'm going to make this say 23 perhaps. Gives about 6 years ahead of from now. Says warning, input data has been changed, PV, yield, present value, yield, and the net profit or loss results displayed may not be correct. Okay, because you've changed the maturity date. If I actually go down, you'll see I have the cash flows, bond cash flows, swap cash flows. Right, we will now continue from where we last stopped at the previous tutorial, which was a marathon, if you like, 4 hours long, would you believe? 13 seconds less than 4 hours. And that covered all from here to there, these commands. Just very quickly, because the subject is completely new, or may be completely new to the majority of the users. It will be obviously very familiar to any bond trader or dealer, but particularly asset swap traders. But majority of the people I'm expecting here, they may not be familiar with quite a lot of these terms. So I have to assume the users know nothing. Start from that premise, so I can't go wrong. So I'm assuming you know nothing. So right from the beginning, we are trying to cover these topics. Right, in the previous tutorial, covered all from there to there. Now we'll continue with these commands here below. So view or change, because there is a limited amount of space available, as you can see in here, I could just about manage to get this load stroke create transaction stroke deal database. So stroke read that stroke as load or create transaction or deal database. So here view stroke change credit charges table. So think of it as view or change credit charges table. Now this particular this credit charges table, even some people who work in investment bank, a few of the dealers or traders may not even be aware of that. It is possible. So if you are completely new to the subject, so do not worry that much. They're very specialist terms, and how they are used and all, we will go through it. So because it's a very specialist term, and it has a substantial effect on the actual results. So only certain people within an investment bank, for example, will be allowed to change the credit charges table. Very few. Very likely just the main dealer or trader, or possibly maybe one or two other people. That's all. Majority of the bond traders and dealers will just be using that table data. They will not have the authority to go and change anything. Okay, so this just means just view or change permanently credit charges used in this model. So that's what this particular command does. So please note that only certain people have the authority to use this command. AZMAT System displays a message if the current user does not have access to this command. Credit charge. This output parameter is situated in the main parameters area. So credit charge, in this case, credit charge, if I come out of this menu so you can see what's behind there. Credit charge in US dollar, 477 for this particular here. In fact, actually at this particular point, I haven't, it would probably be worthwhile doing a quick calculation in here. Note that both of these currencies are US dollars, so it's an interest rate swap. And the reason why it's got US dollar, all these US dollars here is because that currency is US dollars. And again here, US dollar bond yield in US dollar, everything here is because I have US dollar is the currency of bond. They need not be US dollars. They need not be the same currency. It could be anything, any two currencies. And if they are that, then they'll be called cross-currency swap. If they are both the same currency, then it will be known as interest rate swap. So let's have a quick, before we actually proceed with that, let's have correct information, if you like, because I've changed the maturity date, and I think it would be a good idea to actually just do a quick calculation on this. Get AZMAT System to calculation, get it to do this bit as well. So I'm going to do calculate net P&L, profit and loss, and 1 basis point move. We've been through this in the previous tutorial. If you would like to know what it means, any of these commands from there to there, I suggest you look at the tutorial immediately before this current tutorial. So calculate net P&L and 1 basis point move. While it's doing that, if you watch this status area, helpful messages are displayed, letting the user what AZMAT System is doing. There, ready. Now, it took reasonably longer, if you like, on a faster machine. This particular command would have been much quicker. But this is, remember, this is running XL 2010 under Windows XP. So it's a fairly old machine I'm using, even though it is fairly fast at the time that was. But for example, it has 500 megabyte RAM, and which is now might sound just so silly, because on the other machine which I'm using, Windows 10, and that has 8 gigabyte of RAM, so 16 times more the random access memory. So of course it just does it in a flash. You don't even get to see those messages. And in order to see those, you can actually have, there is a command here in the U menu. You can, if you turn the screen update on and off, you will see the commands as it's carrying on, which files is opening and so on, but we won't do it right now. Right now, I'm just going to continue with this Z menu and just actually go describe each of these commands. And when we come in later tutorials, when we have lots of time, then we can use various commands and see what happens if you have the screen update on and off. For example, display results on and off, extra screen messages on and off, and so on, all these other things later on. So now, in this particular tutorial, I'm just going to go through these commands one by one in some detail. So now if you notice this message, there was a warning message that some results input data has changed, some results for PV, yield, and net P&L may not be correct. That message is replaced by note, just information here, commands in Z menu have been specifically designed to work with this file. Because this is asset swap model, this file name is zb-azmat.xlsx. So as asset swap model, and so basically just giving us, because there is no error message, there's no other information to display other than just, this is quite important for you to know that the Z menu, all the commands in here and in Z menu, they're all designed specifically for the asset swap model. That means while their swap model is open or is active, those are the commands you will be using it specifically for this particular calculation model of AZMAT system. So here we have, so this one, view or change credit charges table, and credit charge in US dollar. The reason is in US dollar is because that's the currency of swap. If the currency was GBP, Japanese yen, or whatever else, any other currency, all these would be in that currency. And so here, if I look at it, this particular swap, changing that form data with this particular swap will result actually in a net loss. So net profit or loss. So it's negative, and in red, that means is a loss. So for example here, how did we get this? Very quickly, have a look at it. PV means present value of bond flows. We've been briefly through that just to show you in previous tutorial there. These are the bond cash flows. these are the swap cash flows. So if I'm just going to put it down here, there, up to there, bring that there, bring up there. So you can just about see that. So the present value of bond flows, cash flows, we're just saying flows. So it's actually short for cash flows. So the present value of bond flows in US dollar is 252,467. Present value of that is that. And the present value of swap flows, the swap cash flows is from there to there, or the present value of that is minus 286,262. So the swap it there, it will result in a net loss of 34,271. Now, we've been through this in the previous tutorial, how this is actually calculated for when you're doing it for the bond or the cross-currency and for the interest rate swaps. I'm not going to go into that now. I suggest you look at that previous tutorial for that. So right now, that's basically what it is. It will result in a negative value here. So let me just very quickly. If you add the two, that plus that will give you 508805. Sorry. Yes, roughly. So 50805, 4805, 3. I'll tell you what. If you simply look at it here, I don't need to do that. You can see it from here. You may see there is a difference of 1, you might think, if you add all that lot here there together. The reason for that is because these are all rounded. So you'll not get the exact figure as you would expect. So if I simply add, for example, that to that, 7 plus 1, 8, 6, 13, better way. Read the result here. 33,795. If I take this off from here, 34,000, it says 271 plus 5, 276 plus 200, 476. And that's 477. That's where I meant 1 point difference, but it's not actually, because these are rounded to the nearest integer. In the background, if you actually copy these values, paste them as values, you'll find that there are decimal places in there. So that's why you don't see exact in here difference. Okay, I'm not going to go through that. I have tried not to go through, but I still have gone through it. But that's why, if you're wondering why that is this case, I have described it quite clearly in the previous tutorial. So credit charge is in US dollar, 477 is here. It is used to calculate the net P&L in US dollar, not just the present value of the bond cash flows, present value of the soft cash flows, and the credit charge, which is calculated separately and then used here. I know it's if you like, it's compared with the other values. As you can see, they're in thousands, tens of thousands. But it's like, think of it as very, it's like icing on the cake. Very, very, what should I say? If you wanted to be very precise in the calculations, you would use that as well. Credit charge in US dollar, 477. After all, $477 is not something you would just ignore. So the credit charge, this output parameter is situated in the main parameters area. It's displayed here in the main parameters area. This command is, I'm just going to concentrate, I think right now, I should concentrate only on the commands as I had planned to do. We will go through in details of all these, every single item, if you like, here and the value used in later tutorials, which will be specifically for that. If I simply digress from the main one, this will also then take hours and hours. So right now, I would like to concentrate on going to the actual each command in detail and not go into how all the other things are calculated at this moment in time. We will go through those at a later time. So this command is only available when asset swap model is being used, obviously. It's not used anywhere else in AZMAT system. It's credit charge command. Only in asset swap model. When we are calculating the net P&L, for example, this is the only time in AZMAT system it is used. Before using this command, please read the entire command description, including the section entitled Very Important in the AZMAT system help file on page Z17. It's described, and I suggest you read it. It'll give you a lot more information about what it is and how to use it and so on. So the credit charge is calculated by using the credit charges table, which contains figures in separate columns for interest rate swap, which is IRS, and cross-currency swap, CCS, according to the number of years to maturity of the swap. So remember, interest rate swap is when the two currencies are the same. So in this case, for example, we've got US dollar currency bond. Currency swap is also US dollar. So when the currencies are the same, they don't have to be US dollar. It could be any other, GBP, JPY, XEU for euro. Where the two currencies are the same, it's known as interest rate swap, IRS. Where the currencies are different, this currency is different to that, then it's known as cross-currency swap, because this swap is between two different currencies. And the credit charge, the figures in the credit charge table contain figures in separate columns for interest rate swap and cross-currency swap according to the number of years to maturity of this swap. This command is used in two stages. Stage 1, when this command is used in any AZMAT session for the first time, AZMAT system displays the existing credit charges table, which is being used in all the calculations by each and every person who is using the AZMAT system. It also displays the following: ID of the person who had last changed the figures and saved over the original table, date and time of such change. Okay, so when you use this command for the very first time, that's what happens. It'll display the existing credit charge table is being used by everybody, say in an investment bank. If you're one of the bond traders or dealers, it'll display that particular credit charge table, which is basically is in a file, which will open that file and show it to you, and also give the name of the person, the ID. Like in my case, I'm using AA, my ID. I come out of it, not in this file, but here you can see AA. That's my ID, I'm using it. So it'll give the two-letter ID of the person who had last changed or entered, like if you like, the figures in that particular credit charge table. Remember, everyone else in the entire company or bank, for example, investment bank, if that's what it's designed for, all the dealers and traders, they all will be using the same figures as shown in the credit charge table. This is not designed for each person. They can say, oh, I'll use this, and someone else will use that. No, everybody in the bank will be using the same figures. That's why this command is not available to every user in the bank. For example, junior personnel won't have it. Very likely only possibly 2 or maximum 3 people, or maybe just one person, senior bond trader or dealer or the manager, would be able to change those values, because they do affect the net P&L, as you can see in here, which will for every single deal or transaction that is calculated in AZMAT system. So those values can only be changed by certain people who have the authority to do so. So if the ID, for example here, if the ID is AZ, then means the credit charge table was not modified by any user. One other thing, it'll actually, if the ID says that the last person who had last changed, the figure is saved over the original table, and date and time of such change. If the ID is AZ, then it means that the credit charges table was not modified by any user. So it's been there when it first was created, and someone decided, right, that's what the main senior personnel, managers of senior bond trader or dealer decided that everyone within the company should be using that. If anybody then later on then starts changing it, if they change it, then it will show their ID and the date and time of that change. If and the ID is the ID is shown as AZ, then that means no one changed that credit charges table. It's the original credit charges table. As you can appreciate here, just like the file beginning with Z, you should not use. The ID AZ is also specific, and you cannot use that. AZMAT system will display a message if you try to use that, because that is a reserved ID. And like in this case, I'm using that to let the users know that no one has changed the credit charges table when the ID is AZ. So this command is used in 2 stages. As I said, stage 1 was that. Very first time when it's used in any AZMAT session. So no, we're not talking about first time today and tomorrow. Tomorrow when you use it, it's not first time. On that particular day, in any AZMAT session, when you use it first time, it'll show you that. If you use second time, Then, when this command is used in any AZMAT session for the second time, AZMAT System changes the existing credit charges table to reflect any changes made by the current user. It also records the following: ID of the current user, person who has last changed the original table, date and time of such change. Note that this new credit charge table will be used in all the calculations by each and every person who is using the AZMAT system. Therefore, any changes should be made very carefully, and appropriate approval for such change should be obtained where necessary before proceeding to stage 2. So this is how it is. As I mentioned, it's a very important document, credit charge table. So if obviously you do not have authority, say if you're working in an investment bank, you do not have authority, AZMAT system will not actually allow you to make any changes anyway. But if you do have authority, you should change it only once you have obtained approval. Unless you are the top person, then you're right. If you think that's what everyone should use, then by all means do so. Note that this, so the new credit charge table also note that everybody else in the bank, for example, will be using those new values from the time you make changes. It's very important. If the user simply wishes to view the credit charges table, this command should be used once only in an AZMAT session. So remember, if you use this second time, then it starts making changes, whatever changes you made, it save it, and everybody will see it. So if you just want to look at it, only open it once in any AZMAT session. In this case, immediately after viewing, File Close command should be used from the Excel menu to close the file used to display the credit charges table. This will not affect anything in the current AZMAT session, and it will not affect any other user either. So if you wanted to see what it is, as soon as you've seen it, use the Excel File Close command to close it. If, however, this command is used for the second time, any changes made to the credit charge table will affect not only the current user immediately, but also all users of AZMAT system who open the asset swap model from that moment on. So it is a very important command. So it should be used only, and the fact that whether you use it, if you use once or twice. Remember, first time, if you just want to view it, use it, and the file, you can see it, view it. When you finish with it, close it, file close. If you use it second time, then any changes you make to that file, AZMAT system will start using those changes, not only for you, but also everyone else in the bank who may or may not even be aware of it. They will be, those changes, those new values will be used in their calculations. When in their asset swap model, they say, right, calculate the net P&L, whatever, it will be using those values. So it's really very, very important that you do not use it more than once in an AZMAT session if you do not want AZMAT system to start using the new values. So whereas, for example, in the curve And so you can just save it as some other file name and start using it, not with credit charges table. There is only one and only one credit charges table, which will be used by everyone else, by all users in that particular company. Next command, prepare customer's cash flow report. Prepares cash flows report from customer's point of view. Remember, there are the cash flows. There is one cash flow report from customer's point of view, and the other one is prepared bank's cash flow report. So it's a cash flow report from the bank's point of view. You will understand what they mean as we go through these commands. So let's have a look at the customer's cash flows report first. This command is only available when AZMAT model is being used. The net cash flows displayed in the AZMAT model are from bank's point of view. This command prepares all the intermediate and final net cash flows from the customer's point of view for the currently displayed data. This report normally takes about 7 seconds to prepare. That was like in an older machine. In newer machines, it'll be much quicker. Now, this I cannot show you on the screen at this point, but when you actually do the prepare, we may actually go on at a later date, use these commands so you can then see what it actually means. But an example of this is of these customers' cash flows, bank cash flows, is in the AZMAT system help file. Not the actual online one. It's a print version. One has it, but you are being supplied with the online version. So when you use your own command, if you print it out, you'll see the actual difference between the banks and the customer's cash flow are. And we will go into that perhaps by actually carrying out each of these commands in a later tutorial. Right now, I just want to go through briefly what actually the command is, rather than going through each command. So let's go, especially if these terms are completely new to you. So let's just go through one step at a time. So first, just just try to understand that the cash flow report is different from the customer's cash flow report and the bank's cash flow report. From whose point of view? So it's not one cash flow report. First things to know, from whose point of view. If it's customer's point of view, then it's that customer. So if some bank's point of view, it's the other way, the other party, if you like, to the transaction. So the net cash flows displayed in the AZMAT model are from bank's point of view. So they're displayed here, net cash. These are net cash flows. They are displayed from the bank's point of view. This command prepares, this command, customer's cash flow report command, prepares all the intermediate and final, the net cash flows from the customer's point of view for the currently displayed data, right? For the currently displayed data, it calculates those cash flows from customer's point of view, all the intermediate and final net cash flows. And normally takes about 7 seconds in older machines. The report is displayed in a separate file which is ready for print. So basically it prepares a file, and then you can use the printed report could be faxed to the customer. The idea is you have the report is displayed in a separate file, which is ready for print. The user can print the report by using the file print command from the Excel menu, and then the printed report could be faxed to the customer. The report file could also be saved by the user using the file save as command from the Excel menu. So when you say prepare customer's cash flow report, it'll prepare a file which you can either the user, for example, bond trader or dealer, could simply print it out and fax it to the client. Or use the Excel file save as command to save it. From the Excel menu, use the Excel file save as command after the report is printed. We will go through these commands later and see, then perhaps it'll make more sense what actually does. Then once you've seen it, that's how in an investment bank, a bond trader or dealer would be doing that on a daily several times during a day. Note that AZMAT System will use the same file to prepare another report. Therefore, if the print report is required to be saved, it should be saved with a different name before this command is used. Okay. So I suggest when we come to use it, I will actually do that. So you don't need to remember that. But just if you're going to use it before I get to that particular in a webinar to do that, if you get to use this before, the file which it prepares, you should save it with a file name of your own choice. If you want that particular file, if you want to use it, print it, have a look at it again and again, then you should save it. Because next time you say prepare cash flows report, say for another bond, the same file will be used. So AZMAT System will override the previous customer's cash flow report. So if you want to save that particular cash flow report for a particular information here, the transaction or deal, then save it. Save it as the name. Give it a name. Use file save as Excel command, and then the original will be overwritten next time this command is used. And the same applies to the bank's cash flow report as well. That you should save it with your own name. Give it a name. Use file save as command. The prepare bank's cash flow report prepares cash flow report from bank's point of view. This command is only available when AZMAT model is being used. The net cash flows displayed in the AZMAT model are from bank's point of view. See, these are net cash flows, and they are from bank's point of view. So the bank's cash flow report will be like this, as you see. Customer's cash flow report is not just the net one, as we've gone through it earlier on. It prepares all the intermediate and final net cash flows from the customer's point of view. As the bank one is as displayed here in the AZMAT model. Bank's cash flow report. The net cash flows displayed in AZMAT model are from bank's point of view. This command prepares all the intermediate and final net cash flows from the bank's point of view for the currently displayed data. This report normally takes about 7 seconds to prepare. So the ones you see here are the net cash flows. So this prepares all the intermediate and final net cash flows from the bank's point of view. If you want to see all those, then you have to use this command. This report is displayed in a separate file, which is ready for print. The user can print the report by using the file print command from Excel menu. File print command from the Excel menu, or indeed you can save it. File save as command to save the file with the name of your choice. Note that AZMAT System will use the same file to prepare another report. So therefore, if the print report is required to be saved, it should be saved with a different name before this command is used again. Next one, prepare IRS purchase tickets. Prepares IRS, remember IRS, interest rate swap. When the currencies are the same, and two currency of the bond, currency of the swap is the same, doesn't have to be US dollar, could be any currency, but if both currencies are the same, the swap currency and the bond currency, if both are the same, then it's called interest rate swap. Okay, IRS, interest rate swap. So this command is to prepare interest rate swap purchase tickets. Next one is interest rate swap sale tickets. So we just go through this purchase tickets first. Prepares the interest rate swap IRS purchase tickets file and saves the file. This command is only available when asset swap model is being used. Now, the other point is this command will only work where AZMAT System has already allocated a transaction. Let me just come out of this. Here, transaction deal number. I don't have a transaction deal number yet because I have not saved this particular transaction. You know, all I did was change the maturity date there, but and I then did the calculations, calculate net P&L and the basis point move. So it's calculated 1 basis point move, what will happen for each 1 basis point move for the market price or 1 basis point move in the margin. But I have not actually saved it, so there's no transaction deal number as my system has not given it yet. But if I want to do that, if I actually want to use this prepare IRS purchase tickets, for example, I have to first save it. If this is what I want to use, the current data. So it will only work, this command will only work where AZMAT System has already allocated a transaction deal number to the currently displayed data. So it should have a transaction deal number. If it doesn't, then you should use the save as new transaction deal. It will be a new one because if there isn't any transaction deal number, then you will have to save it, use this command, save as a new transaction deal. In fact, let's just do it. But before I do that, I'll actually change this one, make it a not what if, which is 0. I'll make it a live one, which is put 1. So it's live deal. So let's just do that. We've already calculated by saying calculate the net P&L and 1 basis point move. So let's just save it. So in order to get a number here, I could do two things. Either you could actually load an old transaction from your database file, AZMAT System SSOP database file, or do some changes here, make some changes, and then save it as a new transaction deal. Then AZMAT System will allocate a transaction or deal number. And of course, if there is an error, it will let you know that this such and such error exists, and you have to first change that error, whatever the error is, before it can do any calculations. It won't do calculations on any the deal has some errors in it. It requires you to first correct those errors. Okay, so let's just save it. There's no harm in it. Let's just save as new transaction deal. It'll have to be saved as new transaction deal. I can't use this save over old transaction deal because it does not have a number. And all the in the bond database uses your own specifically for the current users, the bond database file. Each and every record or row, if you like, row of the transaction deal will have a number, transaction or deal number, generated by AZMAT System to make sure it is unique. So it's not the same as any other numbers. That's why this particular, to allocate a deal number, transaction number, is not left to the user, because in a particular database file, maybe instead of like 20, 30 deals, there may be hundreds, and the user cannot expect to know all of those and to make sure it's a unique number. So AZMAT System does it for the user. It generates a number that is unique. So I'm going to save as a new transaction deal this particular data I have here. Save as new transaction deal. Note that when it's done that, it will give it a number here. It'll also obviously open the SSOP model database. So here, it says so this deal has been saved as transaction or deal number 474303. This is a unique number. It's generated, and you can be sure of that there isn't another transaction or deal with that same number in the AAB AZMAT.xlsx file. This file is the SSOP database file, and it resides in g:\\AZMAT directory or folder. Reason it resides here is because that's where I started this session of AZMAT System. If you'll probably be running this particular AZMAT System will be on your C directory hard disk of your machine, PC. So then your user directory will be c:\\AZMAT directory or folder. So 474303, let's have a look at it. So 474303, okay, C474303. So if I go and have a look at it, that's the database. AA are the initials of the current user, that's me. Then B, AZMAT.xlsx. So because SSOP model begins like all the other calculation models in AZMAT System, begins with the Z, and then the second character is different. So in B is here for the SSOP model. and then you have BAZMAT. So the actual asset swap database is basically from the second character of the file name, say BAZMAT.xlxx, and you have the two initials added, the two initials of the current user. So we have total 5 + 3, 8 characters, as we used to have in older versions. Although now you can have very, very large file names, whatever, but at the time, the way I've designed it is like this, so that it's all consistent. Just by looking at a file, I know exactly quite a lot of information. Basically, first thing is that it is an asset swap model database. It is specifically this particular database has information by the user whose ID is AA, and it's an asset swap. Whereas for the bond, it has a different letter, and for FRN, floating rate notes, also it's a different letter, and so on. So let's have a quick look at it. So we've got the 474303. The deal date is 2nd September. Should be the first one here, 47303. Transaction deal is 2nd September. And because it's a live deal, I put 1 there, and that's why it's got 1 there, and that's it. It's right at the top, the first one. If the second one I have, for example, another one I save, not live, but what if will be at 0. It will not put it there. Instead, it's going to go from the last record up. So it will have it here. We'll put that because that was yesterday, 1st of September 2017. Today is 2nd of, I'll have to go back up to show you 2nd September 2017. 2nd September 2017. Now this is the UK dating system. That's why I've got the date, month, year. For American dating system, this will actually be like February the 9th, 2017. But I'm here in UK. This particular file is in the UK date format. And the way it is, I've taken the, rather than using numbers, both, which will confuse, I'm actually using the letters to indicate the month. So SEP for September. And so it's 2nd September 2017. That's the transaction deal, or the transaction or deal date. So if we look at this one, first we have actually saved it. I'll go back to that now. So to prepare IRS purchase tickets, we go back to the actual, let's go back to the asset swap model. So here it has a transaction or deal number. So now that it has this particular deal number, prepare IRS, interest rate swap purchase tickets. So this command, first thing, will only work where AZMAT system has already allocated a transaction or deal number to the currently displayed data. So in this particular case, by saving, the only way you will get that number here allocated is by saving it, the data as a new, save as a new transaction deal. If there was nothing there beforehand, it's a blank. That's the only way you'll get it. And for the currently displayed data, of course. Of course, you can get it for an existing data, old transaction deal, by simply using the command load old transaction or deal. You could load it from your asset swap model database. in which case, by definition, an old transaction deal will have a transaction or deal number. So if you look at it, just have a quick look at the database. As you can see, transaction deal number, every single of them has a transaction or deal number. And it must be unique. You can be sure of that, because AZMAT system would not have allocated a duplicate transaction or deal number. It will make sure that the number is suggesting, not just suggesting, the number is giving to a transaction or deal is unique. You can go and check it yourself if you like. You'll find that none of them are duplicates. So the asset swap purchase tickets file is produced by using this command, prepare IRS. In the Z menu, prepare IRS purchase tickets. The asset swap purchase tickets file is produced, which contains the following tickets: bound purchase ticket, 2 plain tickets and 1 with word warning. Interest swap ticket, 1 plain ticket and 1 with the word warning. Cash flow ticket 1, 1 plain ticket and 1 with the word warning. Cash flow ticket 2, 1 plain ticket and 1 with the word warning. Now you might wonder what all these are, warnings and so on, different tickets. It's because a particular bank might use these different reports, if you like, printed reports of that with such and such. Each of them will be used at a different time, and you will see why and where later on. So that's what the asset swap purchase tickets file is. The asset swap purchase tickets file is produced, which contains the following tickets: A, bound purchase ticket, 2 plain tickets, and 1 with the word warning. Interest swap ticket, 1 plain ticket and 1 with the word warning. Cash flow ticket 1 and cash flow ticket 2. In each case, 1 plain ticket and 1 with the word warning. This command prepares the purchase tickets and saves the file. So it doesn't actually do anything other than simply preparing the purchase tickets and saving the file. The asset swap purchase tickets file is of the form P, and then you have 367 digit number, 7 digits, then .id, where P represents purchase. If, on the other hand, you wanted the sale tickets, then you will have S instead of P. P is for purchase, S for sale. The asset swap purchase tickets file is of the form P, and then it has 7-digit number. 3. I'm just 7-digit number, and then the ID. ID is the ID of the current user. P represents purchase. N and 7 N's represents the 7 N's represent the 7-digit transaction deal number generated by the AZMAT system. ID represents the 2-character ID of the user who had originally printed the 9 tickets. Note, tickets files are saved on the hard disk in C:\AZMAT directory. To print or view one or more of the above tickets at any time, now or in the future, Note that the user has to know the file name, which is of the form P, and then it has a 7-digit number, .id. To view and or print individual tickets, ticket or tickets, 1. The file should be open if it's not already open. 2a. Use the window view command from Excel menu in Excel 5, or use the view manager command from the Excel menu in Excel 7, and so on. Click on the required view or ticket from the list of views. Note W at the end means that the word warning will be printed on the ticket. Now, at this particular point, without actually looking at the purchase ticket or sale tickets, it may not perhaps make much sense. So I think I'm very quickly just going to go over this and proceed to the next command and other things, because right now there's no point going through this in that detail, because it doesn't make much sense unless you can actually see those tickets, which, as I said, are in the AZMAT system help file printed version, but not the online version. So to view and or print individual tickets, what you need to do shows that. And again, either click on show button to display selected view or ticket and so on. I think I'm going to skip that because there's no point going into that detail without actually seeing, without being able to show you what it is. So I won't go into this right now because it has no meaning as such until we actually come to print the ticket and you can see what actually it has. Same thing applies to the prepare IRS purchase tickets. So there is a purchase tickets, and then also IRS sale tickets. So it's very much in detail, but there's no point going into that detail without actually looking at a typical sale or purchase ticket. So I think we will skip that part, which does go through quite a few pages. And then when we will go through that, I cannot go through this one briefly or overview without actually showing you the actual ticket, which I'm not going to do it right now. In this case, I've decided not to go through this in detail for now. So we will just go through it when we actually are going to go through in detail. So this last command, calculate bond yield in the Z menu. Bond yield, calculate bond yield, is simply calculates the bond yield. And this command is only available when asset swap model is being used. It calculates the yield on the bond based on the bond details which have been entered by the user. Note that it is an IRR calculation. I don't know whether you have seen the X in the X menu, internal rate of return, IRR. So if I go actually, let's to see that what it means before we go there, let's go here. So you have here we say for US dollar, we're going to do this. I'm going to use the cash flow. I cannot use that now because we are now in September. So what I'm actually going to do is change the date. Instead of here using that, I'm actually going to say, right, let's say I use 3rd of September. which is actually, I'll have to change that. The 3rd of September is a Sunday. So I'm going to change it to 4th of September, which is Monday. So let's say I've got the cash flow date, cash flow 1. So using that particular curve file, reference curve Z, I use D. So reference curve for that, use cash flow 1. And I want to see the IRR, which is internal rate of return. Remember, when IRR is only when IRR is the yield when present value PV equal to 0. So I have here 0 already. So I'm actually going to do 2 things. First, put it here, and I just say Control I. You should put the result here and also here. And 0 is there already, so that's, you know, if it was not 0, it will change it to 0, whatever else is here, because I'm saying IRR. IRR is simply the yield when the present value equal to 0. So Control I, all the other things should be from here, parameters can take. So Control I have to have my cursor here, there it is. Minus 0.1627565, and it's entered here to 5 decimal places. Yield, which is the IRR, when PV equal to 0. PV, present value, PV is equal to 0. So that's what it is. Minus 0.16276. In this case, because I do not have a limit, I have not given it a limit to the number of decimal places. Here I have formatted it to display 5 decimal places. And here I have not formatted to display any particular number of decimal places. So it basically, Excel enters as many as it can without basically whatever it can actually display to the user. Because if it tries to put like 10 decimal places, it won't be able to fit in all in here, and you'll just have a hash, which is not much use. So it calculates the yield on the bond based on the bond details which have been entered by the user. So this, remember, this I'm just doing it in here, in my AZMAT data file I'm using. And if I go to the, not that command, I have to use this one. If I come here, and remember this command calculates the bond yield. So if I actually move it here, I'm going to take this off anyway here, and so you can see here what's happening here. Right. If I use, so this command, add in set menu and calculate the bond yield. So if you use that command from the admin, so this command is only available when SSOF model is being used. It calculates the yield on the bond based on the bond details which have been entered by the user. So bond details are here. Note that it is an IRR calculation, internal rate of return calculation. The yield basis is determined from the coupon basis. So yield basis is determined from the coupon basis. At coupon basis. So these, what it is like number 4, we will go into much detail, very much detail, to describe all different types and then how it actually uses. So it calculates the yield on the bond based on the bond details which have been entered by the user. Note that it is an IRR calculation. The yield base is determined from the coupon basis and the yield frequency from the coupon frequency. Okay, I think let me just go back here. Started at 12:14 a.m. I'm going to just save it again, just because 12:14 a.m. Save as data file 12:14. It was 12:14, so it's an hour and a quarter gone by. I think we'll stop here, and the actual '24. We will not actually stop yet, but this prepare. I just want to show you. Let's just go back to the SSOF model. The prepare bank's cash flow report and not the cash. Sorry, this one. Prepare IRS purchase tickets and prepare IRS sale tickets. We will go into detail, very much in detail, but only when I can actually show you the actual reports, because there are 9 tickets it could publish in a typical bank, and there are so many, some of them with copies, some without, and why you would have and how many. We'll go through those later with the actual to show you what we have for each one. So there's no point in me just talking. It won't make any sense to you just by listening to me. You need to be able to see it as well, what each of these commands mean. So I won't go through that for now. I'm going to skip the part of the purchase tickets. So from Z20 to Z23. Yes, Z20 to Z23 inclusive. Those 4 pages we'll go through at a later date. Right now, just wondering whether I should continue with this highlights of SSOF model and more about SSOF model or not. I think it's better to actually do this as in a separate tutorial, the other bits, the highlights of SSOF model and the more about SSOF model, because then it's like a revision in some cases, and in other cases it's going in quite detail of various aspects of AZMAT system. So I want those particular yes, I want to define those items in very much in detail, but as a separate tutorial just on its own, not as part of this the earlier, not as part of this whole lot here. So let's do that. The other aspects which is not here in the menu here, we'll do those in a separate tutorial. Then they could be watched by anyone interested in the SSOF model in more detail. See how wonderful, if you like, this SSOF model is, how very much comprehensive it is in terms of the reports it produces for the bond dealer or trader working in an investment bank. So I think we will stop at this point, this particular tutorial, and we'll continue with those in a separate tutorial altogether. So thank you for your time. let's just first, I'm going to go back, or rather here, actually, let's just close it. So close the SSWap. So if you look at it now, you should have only one file open here, active here. Let's close both. And I'm actually also going to just do that, save it again here. Save as in the data phase 135. So we will now actually finish for this particular tutorial. And the highlights of SSWap model and the more about SSWap model I'll cover in a separate tutorial. So that can be watched by anybody who is very much interested in knowing a lot more about SSWap model than just simply those particular commands we've gone through. There is quite a lot, actually. We will go through the SSWap model, but at a later date. This tutorial is simply meant to be an introduction to SSWap model. So let's I'm going to just now basically finish this particular tutorial. Thank you for your time. So we stop now.